We're good here. Sorry about that. But we'll get going, and I'll try to move a little quick. My name is Jackson Dodge. I'm the founder of a company called Invoice or Invoice AI. We are an admin app that you can talk to. So think an app where you can say, hey, invoice John Doe, $475 for septic maintenance and $125 for lid removal and digging. And that one sentence right there would automatically create an invoice, a document, all branded to your organization. It would send it to the customer. It could collect payment. It could keep QuickBooks up to date. It can keep a CRM up to date, all just from that one sentence. It also allows you to do things like ask the application questions, like who are my overdue estimates or invoices, or how much money did I make last month, and it talks back to you just like an employee. And so that's what our business does. We're going to get into that a little bit, but it's mostly about how we can use tools like that to significantly improve mostly our back office. This is going to be focused on what we can do as business owners, operators, less about what's in the field. Just a quick background on who I am or why I ended up doing this, or what credibility I may or may not even have in this category. My whole background's in technology. I spent about 15 years in health tech, mostly in the telehealth space, but I knew I didn't want to be in corporate America, and I thought I wanted to own a small service business. So my wife and I, we spent 2 years evaluating service businesses to buy. At the exact same time, we were building a house, and we were acting as the general contractors. We had a friend helping us. He was kind of on site, but we were handling all the paperwork. We were working with the bank, and the process was really painful. One, the paperwork was a mess, and I couldn't believe the businesses that were doing really well, a couple $1 million a year in revenue, but every piece of paperwork you got from them looked a little bit different. It was never on time. The bank was always complaining. They were always complaining, and it just felt like a funny conundrum that shouldn't exist in today's world. At the same time, the businesses we were evaluating, I knew I could implement great technology, and I knew I could probably run the business pretty well, but I couldn't get over the fact that it was a little silly for me to think that I was going to run it better than the person who had been doing it for 20 or 30 years, and run it better than the competition, all of you. At the end of the day, if you don't know what you're doing in the field, you're just not going to succeed. And I couldn't get over that fact. And so I kind of found my way to this of how to take technology and fix what I thought was broken, and hopefully give everyone else a tool that they feel like is fixing their back office. In that process and in all my conversations with contractors and business owners and tradespeople, they were all sharing the same couple of things. Admin time ate up into their nights and weekends, or it ate into time that they weren't even aware of, or it wasn't eating up anything. They were just burdening their spouse with it, who was really nice not to complain too much. That was so evident. It looks a little squished there. I'll also say I do practice what I preach. I've never given this exact presentation. This was created using AI last night at about 9 p.m. I dictated to a free application, and it generated this whole thing. And it is a little funny, the pictures of that computer's backwards. I don't know why he'd be looking at that. So there's a couple mistakes AI still makes, but it is really beneficial, and that's what we're going to get into here. How can we find free tools to massively speed up our process? I would have spent a week creating this in the past, and I did it right before I went to bed. But these contractors, folks like yourselves, were burning up their nights, weekends. They had super slow quote to cash cycles. They were fronting money. They were paying employees and vendors before they had been paid. They had all the pains of what we've accepted as small business owners, but do not need to exist in today's world. And most of them were pretty disorganized. A lot of paper, a lot of notes flying everywhere. I built that house about 4 or 5 years ago now. I still have the well driller trying to collect the last $1,100. I can't decide I've since sold the house, if that's a real amount he's trying to collect, or if he was really that disorganized that 5 years later he needs $1,100. And then I think in this whole process, I became really aware of downstream issues that basically every party involved in this process is like decently frustrated with the paperwork and admin. And yet the landscape and expectations are really shifting. There's a big trend right now to buy small service businesses. It's the #1 job of all Harvard MBAs. Everyone going and getting a master's at Harvard, the #1 job in last year's class was to go buy a small business, not go to big consulting, not go to Wall Street, was to buy small service businesses. And so the pressure and competition is shifting. I like to get a little read of the room. Sometimes this attracts people that know a lot about technology, sometimes not much at all. Who, just show of hands, does use nights and weekends to do billing and paperwork? Most of the room. Who loves paper job notes and is using a lot of paper? I actually love paper, so we'll come back to this, but who's using a lot of paper on the job site? Not as many people. And then just because we're going to spend 1 minute on this, who has a website and or a Google business profile? Oh, most of the room, that's pretty good. I talked to a lot of contractors who don't have that. What I will say is it is critical that if we're going to think about implementing AI, we're going to think about modernizing our business. If we don't have some of the ducks in a row of a modern business, it's definitely time to get that done. But the good news is AI can do it. If you don't have a website, actually the same tool that I used to create this presentation, they also do websites. There are a bunch of tools out there where through a simple voice or text-based prompt, you can kind of check these boxes. And the reason I also call this out is in our philosophy as a company and as a business owner, we really exist to decrease the cost of software, but also ensure that software works for you, that it's not an additional task or additional item. But in it, there's a real theme of helping preserve business ownership, business value, enterprise value. A lot of you might be aging out of your business one day and hope to sell it. Some of you might be new to business ownership and wanting to rapidly grow it. It is shocking how much of the valuation of your company might be tied to these things. If you follow people on Instagram or YouTube, there's influencers, everyone from like Cody Sanchez, if you've ever heard of her, to people on TV like Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs, or different people really advocating for buying businesses, and they're teaching people how to negotiate this. And if what they're honing in on is people who don't have modern technology, and they're not taking 2% off the top, they're taking like 30% off the top. And so use free AI tools to close that gap. I'm happy to talk to anyone who's like, oh, I really need to do one of these things, and I can recommend a tool for those. We've kind of already covered a lot of this, but so we want to segue from where the basics are into like the meat of how to use AI and how to avoid using really expensive tools and using up all of our time. We've already covered that there's new competition entering the space, but I'd like to stress how much customer expectations are also changing. I think even just a couple years ago, the average customer profile for a lot of you was someone who was perfectly fine operating on paper. They were perfectly fine with the long delays. They had accepted the same reality that we've all accepted. But that is shifting, and increasingly the customer, the GC, whoever you might be working with, is moving much quicker and will select a vendor, yes, on reputation, but also on their ability to move at the same pace. I do a lot of these conferences, and if I can't pay via a credit card or instant bank transfer, I'm not going. I don't have a checkbook. The bank we run our company on, I'm not even sure they have many employees. It's an entirely digital bank that we chose to go with. And that isn't abnormal. And so we want to think about how much, even if they're not vocalizing it, these customer expectations might be on us. I think it's apparent what we're trying to close. We're trying to close this 15 to 30% gap in your time that goes to admin work or is going to your spouse or colleague who could be doing higher value tasks if it is an employee. And so the objective is to move from today's job to an optimized job. And at each time frame, there's going to be, a savings. Everything from when a call comes in. I'm not big on the AI voice agents. Is anyone using an AI voice agent to answer the phone? Yeah, do you like it?
For backup, yeah.
For backup, yeah. So I love it for backup, right? Maybe after a certain number of rings or maybe nights or weekends, it's jumping in. I think there's a lot of benefit there. I think the goal of AI in general, or what I hope for AI in general, is that it actually increases our human interactions, that AI actually starts to prevent us from all walking around like this and starting to talk to each other more and have more time to answer the phone. So I'm big on the things where AI enables you to spend more time doing those. But we're going to try to address each one of these to move to a faster, more instant system where you're getting paid in time to pay your bills. There's no more cycles there. And you're able to own admin in workflows that already exist by talking to a device, texting it, using pictures to generate admin work, etc. And so these are the key places where I think small to medium-sized businesses can make an immediate difference. I'll preface this by saying if you're running a really small business, sub $400,000 or $500,000 a year in top-line revenue, you may not feel the admin pain on some of these items. If you're running a business north of $5 million a year in top-line revenue, you might have a dedicated employee. You might require more sophistication than what some of these tools can deliver, or maybe they're only able to automate 50% instead of 90% of a task. But if you're kind of between that $500,000 and $5 million of revenue, each one of these things can become almost entirely automated, where they're using tools that are listening to you talk, they're watching you type, they're tools that you might be sending information to, and they're going to complete tasks. And so I've kind of already asked a little bit about AI. Is anyone using, or just show of hands of who's using AI already? It can even be ChatGPT or whatever, yeah? Most of the group. What I want to call out really importantly is that all AI is not the same. There's no AI when we're thinking about technology. There's no AI. We can go select other software tools, and they're okay. They're manual work. If you're on-site making job notes, if you love to use Excel, if you're using the Google product suite, buying another software tool in today's world doesn't save you a lot of time. It increases your expenses. You're getting like no real net benefit. And what we want to do is really press on software today, that every dollar you're spending, you're able to really feel the ROI of that. That's a major theme in the way software is kind of developing. And so that leaves you with kind of two primary categories. There's generative AI. That's mostly what ChatGPT is. You're going to ask apps questions, and it's going to be able to generate answers. I encourage everyone to be using Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini in the field. I would encourage getting your teams the corporate plans. To that, it's about $20 per employee per month, which might sound a little pricey, but what they're able to do is probably answer about 90% of the questions they're currently calling you for. They're on a job site, they have an environmental question, they think there's some wetlands or whatever. They could take a picture, they can ask a question, and like 95% of the time it's going to be correct. Not 100, but they're reducing the number of times they're calling you. So generative AI is great, but as business owners, what we really need is agentic AI, where we give the application a task and it goes and completes it for us. It is an employee on our phone, it's an employee in our computer at little to no cost. That's the big piece here too, is that software just doesn't cost what it used to. And so agentic AI can do these tasks for you simply by prompting it. And it is relatively obedient. You don't need to get worried about it having a mind of its own. Some AI does. ChatGPT does this thing where it like hallucinates after you start talking to it for a long time. That's none of the tools that I would recommend are going to do that. They're all kind of gated within your industry or the workflows that you're focused on. But agentic AI can almost entirely automate any of the items up here. But when we're looking at items, what I find a lot of business owners do is they pick too many tools. So they think, oh, we need a CRM, we need a scheduling tool. They get a time tracker app, And so they're already spread out. And maybe you've already done that a little bit. And then there's this whole wave of people right now, these consultants who might be calling you already. You might be getting these salespeople in your voicemail or in your inbox that are like, let me automate small business workflows. That's almost entirely bogus, that offer. They will automate things, and they'll do a perfectly nice job. They'll charge you about $2,000, $3,000 just to set it all up, and then something's going to break about 30 days in, and now you got to pay them $250 an hour to fix it, and all of a sudden they become your kind of outsourced IT person. They'll automate your steps, there's no doubt about it, but what they're really doing is just taking the current problem and they're relieving a little bit of time, but they're probably slightly increasing costs. And we're in an age where adopting the right tools exponentially changes your business. And then we do want to watch cost. I think I talk to a lot of people that are like, oh, well, AI is expensive, these data centers, everything's, really pricey. And that also is a little bit of a myth for us small business owners, medium-sized business owners. If you're a major corporation dealing in a highly regulated field in legal or healthcare, yeah, the modern tools can cost a lot, but simple business admin tools should be free or incredibly inexpensive. They also need to pass 4 tests, and there's kind of a 5th one as well. But if you're selecting a new tool right now, you're thinking about the current tools you pay for, or are willing to switch tools, the tools you're looking for hit all 4 of these 100% of the time. The tools you want to save time immediately. There should be no implementation. If you run a $100 million business, sure, there's some implementation and moving customer lists and all that over. But if you're running that $3 million business and a vendor's saying, oh, well, we got to implement things, even around some of the tracking technology out there, if you're running a small business, just go buy some Apple AirTags to a degree, because the ROI is immediate. And you need to feel that time immediately. If you download an app today and you can start to move into the second one, get significantly faster within the first couple of minutes or the first day, you've selected the right tool. But if they're talking about, 30 days from now we'll have you up and running, that tool will not exist 5 years from now. That is dated technology. They are not modern. I wouldn't believe anything they say. That's just not true. We do a lot in the landscaping space. One of the big competitors there is a company called Jobber. Does anyone use Jobber in here? Yeah, one Jobber. Pretty good tool. I don't have too much negative to say about them. But when a customer moves from Jobber to us and they say, oh, what do I do? How do I get you my information? They can pull up their computer and start taking pictures of the screen, and the information moves over. It takes, however fast they can click away at the photos, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, their whole customer list is in. They want to move over their prior charges, same thing. And that's a decent sized business could move technologies that way. And so you need save time immediately, literally the first day. The expectations should be high. Moving really fast. Whatever process you're trying to automate, it needs to be 50, 80% time savings, not 10. Don't do it if it's 10. It's going to take you too long to evaluate the options on the market. You're looking for drastic time savings. Really easy for your team to use. Software should not require any training today. It should either tell you how to use it, maybe it requires like a 60-second YouTube video or something, but there shouldn't be complex solutions in about 80 to 90% of the business admin software. I'm not necessarily talking about field work. Field work, there's complexities in every industry, and there might be a learning curve in field work, but the goal is to automate these easy tasks. And then it needs to fit how you already, also on the easy to use, I'd also stress, you should be able to have, turn this over to a team member and they get the first 2 points. I talked to one of you earlier about even using like ChatGPT to solve training. You can dump company information into the company ChatGPT account, and then you can tell it to train a new employee, and it probably removes like 80 to 90% of the work you're currently doing, so that the only training you're providing is out in the field. There's no more industry training that you've got to do and systems training that you've got to do. You've removed it. And then it needs to fit how you work. I think how you guys work is great. You're out in the field, you're with a notepad, you're walking job sites, you're maybe taking pictures, you're making notes. I wouldn't change any of that. But what you don't want to do is have to go back to the office and learn a bunch of new processes. Whatever tool you're picking should fit right in. So those job notes, can you take a picture of them? Can that turn into an estimate? You met a new customer, they gave you a business card. Can you take a picture of that or speak what's on the business card to the app, and can it populate in your CRM? Maybe you can send them a text or email right from there or have the app do that. Those are you want to feel really intuitive. That's a human element that AI should enable and not hurt. And then the fifth one that's not on there is just really emphasizing the cost. Is like none of this should be expensive today. Again, big businesses, sure. Small and medium businesses, software should be the cheapest it's ever been. The app that I did the presentation, that was free, and I learned how to. I'd never used it before. I learned how to use it in 5 minutes. Don't buy tools that look like this. If you're using a tool that is like, it's small on the screen, but has all these little fields, and you're looking at it, and you're putting your glasses on to see it, and it's taking you time to learn, right? That's red flag for I'm picking the wrong tool in today's world. I've got to train someone how to use this, and then I'm going to pay a bunch for it. Some of these are per user. Down here, this company's a little silly. They're advertising $14,000 annually. I would hide that price. I don't know who would ever click like, let me learn more on that. I'm going to skip. And you should too, because in the same categories, there's apps like this. This one's mine up here, but they're super easy to look at. They're mobile-based maybe, so you're looking at them in your truck. Get all your admin time done when you're in the field. Spend really little time sitting at a big screen. Or if your spouse is doing this, allow them to do it on the go, or maybe while they're watching Netflix, they're getting their admin work done and you're not bothering them when they get home from work. And these prices, these are from way more sophisticated companies than on the last screen. Way more sophisticated. And these free tiers are free forever tiers. These are not free for 14 days. These are pretty legitimate. The app I made this on is free forever. I can keep doing this, and I don't have to pay for it. And I think that's really important. There's really good technology. There's other ways these companies are getting paid. I think I've met a couple of you, and we're a free application. You said, well, how do you get paid? The credit card charges that we all pay. Every time you check out somewhere, there's 2, 3, 4% fees. And those fees are mostly from a processor. And the banks and the credit card companies, they all get their slice, but they're legally required to share that. And so my business, for example, we go get our piece of that 3% fee. We're not going to burden you with a subscription payment. We are pro small business, and that's part of what we're built on. The companies, who say, oh yeah, built for small business. Are you kidding me? Wait till you add some users to that. It's a little ridiculous, and it's time we call people's bluff on this. Kind of already hit on this. Some of the other red flags to kind of look at, and I'm happy to share some of this with anyone. People jumping immediately to per seat, per truck, per user models without showing you what the ROI is. And I'm not talking about an ROI calculator. I'm talking about if you use this, you're going to get exponentially faster in the first 15 minutes. I had a lawn care company come up to me at a conference about 2 weeks ago, and the guy, he was admittedly not tech savvy, but he said he had just spent 6 hours the night before doing just invoicing. He was wrapping up his week or his month, and felt a little ridiculous, the 6 hours. So even if we cut it in half, 3 hours. We sat with him for a couple minutes, and we figured out how he could do it in 10 minutes on a free tool. And it wasn't, and then you add a user, you're going to go up. No, that same economics model should apply. And so as we look to the future of creating enterprise value, a company that could be purchased or someone can easily be trained to take over, we want to be increasingly weary of these things. And the ROI needs to be so apparent, not some calculator you get told, a feeling you have when you start to use the tool or see it in action. I come from the healthcare space, as I mentioned, and one of the things we talked a lot about, and they still talk about, is allowing doctors to practice at the top of their license. If you walk into an ER and you see an MD fixing a scratch on someone's elbow, your concern is up. Why is the most expensive person in this room doing that? A nurse can turn that person around and get them out the door. You want the MD focused on the person who's just been impaled or something. And the same is true for all of you, especially in this new competitive landscape. And if you don't feel the competitive landscape up here in northern New England, it is inching this way. You should all be doing the most high value tasks in your business. Most of you have built really nice businesses that should not burn your nights and weekends, ones that should be relatively low stress to a degree and really run in the way you want them to. And the tasks you should be doing are the highest value. But a lot of them, you're not going to add some $50,000 to $100,000 a year admin employee, or you don't want to outsource those tasks. And all of this allows you to automate that, stay in control, but practice at the top of your expertise in the field, interacting with customers, thinking to the future, thinking about growth, all of those types of items. And so as we kind of figure out where this is going, this is what this should look like. I kind of just said some of this, but in reality, a couple $1 million a year business, a couple employees, it is a lot of work, but the stuff that's eating up your time and increasing stress are the items that we should be finding ways to automate. So if you do 3 things walking away from this, these are the 3 things I tend to find offer mid-sized contractors the most immediate value. One is fixed billing. If you're not doing this digitally today, I highly suggest taking that step. If you're using tedious tools, in particularly QuickBooks, I'd say find tools that can integrate with QuickBooks and speed that up. They tend to be really tedious. This tends to be items that have downstream impact. Everyone's like, oh, but then if I'm sending it digitally, our credit card fees attached to this, the 2-3% fees. And then that same person spends like 5 hours a week chasing unpaid invoices. Most of you, that works out to a lot more than 3% of your time. That's more like 5 to 10% of your time, or 12% of your time. And so fixing this is usually a massive win. It creates margin, time, you make more often, it's huge. Organizing customer jobs, schedules is another big one. There are a lot of apps out there, softwares out there that you can talk to. Even if you're doing it on paper, it's probably messy. There's a million tools. The jobbers out there are a great kind of baseline, though they do get pricey. And then there's the AI-enabled tools where you're literally talking or typing to a tool and you're saying, hey, adjust the schedule this week. We've got rain forecasted later in the week. I want to see if the customer's available to move Thursday's job to Tuesday, and we're going to, have John in the office on Thursday when it's raining. And that sentence alone should be able to go move around your schedule. Again, not in a generative way. There's lots of tools out there, QuickBooks being one, who've got these little AI icons. Go ask it a couple questions if you're on QuickBooks. It can answer a couple things, but that's about it. We're looking for tools that can take action based on those statements. So in here would also be really lightweight CRMs. If you're on a heavy CRM, and again, unless you're doing like 5 million or more, and really higher than that, you don't need like HubSpot or Salesforce, or you don't even need like is it like Go High Level, or there's some other ones. They're all a little bit of overkill, and they're all just a glorified spreadsheet. Save yourself the cost and pick Excel and just type stuff manually and save the money, or pick a tool that's actually going to do the work for you. And then the last one's responsiveness. I think for the folks who don't have websites or social media presences, or if you do have websites, please go make sure all your contact information is correct. About half the contractors I work with, it's not. So there's like really basic levels to that. But then there's the voice admins who are jumping in after hours. There's some quick contact forms on your website that can help nudge a customer along, collect a little bit more information than your standard form. Again, a lot of free tools. These are the three things that I think are going to save everyone the biggest amount of time. But I highly suggest auditing your business there. We've already hit these. Here's where AI is not so great. I tried about 10 different ways to get the full G to show, but it wouldn't. It says higher, but it wouldn't do it. So I wouldn't have this designing a septic system, for example, if it can't write the word. So there are some tasks that we're pretty safe from AI on for now. But just stressing the greater business value, I think doing this really preserves what your business is worth. It preserves how credible it is. It preserves what the GCs, the bank, everyone thinks of you. You might be like, I don't interact with the bank, but you are interacting with a GC and they're just taking your paperwork and they're handing it right to the bank. And believe me, the bank likes some of you and they don't like others. And some of that is on how much downstream cost it's costing them. And it's a reality that if we all accept, we don't actually need to increase any of our time. It's just, again, picking the right tool who will now execute these things for you. So if you were a little reluctant to adopt technology 20 years ago or 10 years ago, you didn't end up getting a slap on the wrist. You actually were kind of smart in that the technology now you can adopt is just going to do the work for you. And there's not some big learning curve here. We want this all to feel human. I think there's pressure from competitors, there's pressure from your customers. We want to close the gap. I totally recognize I haven't given a lot of specific recommendations of use this tool or that tool. And I think that's really specific to your businesses. It's really specific to the time. Naturally in the billing department, I'm a little biased because I want to recommend my own tool. But I'm happy to talk to each and every one of you. I'm going to open it up to questions. I'm up for solving someone's problem right here. We can go demo a tool. I can open ChatGPT. We can do whatever. But I also want to offer up, a free call. Like everyone's trying to sell AI consultative services. It's largely bogus in if you're getting cold calls for that service. I'm happy to sit with any one of you and just kind of talk about your business. Maybe there's some synergies with my application, maybe not, but let's examine what the most expensive items are and get those off the table. So I'll open it up for questions. Feel free to contact me too. My info's on the screen.
So I'm in the excavator a lot during the day. I run a septic company. I have a pumper that goes around. In scheduling, it's just me and one other guy, so I do all the scheduling and everything. When my phone rings, I usually got to stop what I'm doing, pick up, answer the call, and the appointment. How can AI pick that up for me?
Yeah, so we've got one individual in the room who's using a tool. We can connect you guys after. There's a handful of tools out there. It's that particular market's maybe among the muddiest spaces right now. There's probably 250 relatively credible voice agents who will answer that call. And so finding the right one for your business and ensuring they have some level of either repository that they're getting their information from or pre-approved questions from you that they're collecting is a little tricky. If I can give you a business card after, I'll send you a list that look good to me. I'm happy to send that list. We can connect some individuals after as well. The answer is, yeah, there are some great tools out there and they can do stuff with that information.
Can they work within the, digital infrastructure I have set up?
Potentially, yes. What do you have a CRM or something that you're using?
I use TankTrack for all my
Yep.
scheduling, things like that.
Yeah, you'd have to ask them like what APIs they have or what they can integrate with. I think that the larger the software company, the easier the integration is going to be. But what it probably can do is get it somewhere where in a worst case scenario, you're like copying, pasting it over, or you're like forwarding it to an inbox that's connected. It might be like a little funky, but But you can basically ensure that 100% of the calls get answered, and that there's a nice receptionist in the sense of saying like, hey, we're unavailable right now. Do you want to just hang up and we'll call back, we'll call you back, or would you like to give us a little information and give someone the option? So yeah, I'm happy to send you a couple that look really good to me. We can share some with each other, and yeah, short answer is yes. Any other questions or problems, or someone who wants something, we can attempt to solve something for someone? Yeah.
I've got a question to clarify a little bit. You said if you're taking time to learn to how to implement stuff, then you like to talk about QuickBooks. Well, where am I in the process of switching to QuickBooks Online from old school QuickBooks and desktop?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's kind of what that is.
Yeah.
So then a little later you said, well, then you're going to get this AI to integrate into QuickBooks. But I mean, QuickBooks Online go from desktop is like
That's a painful one.
yeah.
QuickBooks is tough because they really dominate the accounting space, and your CPAs, or if you're doing your own taxes and then you're using TurboTax, they've really got a stronghold on the market. And so the short answer is going from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online, your options are a little limited in terms of that migration. Once you're there, QuickBooks Online, your options are abundant. QuickBooks has an app marketplace, and it's actually pretty good. It requires a lot of filtering, unfortunately, but there are thousands of applications that integrate to QuickBooks for free. Some of them cost money on their own, some do not, but the connection is free. And that does allow you to automate that. Our business is one of those. So if you were in there and you're really frustrated with your estimating and your invoicing and some of the client management, you can actually find us in there and automatically link it. But that migration is tough. It's also, for me, a little bit of a red flag on Intuit as a whole. Intuit, I haven't looked at their stock recently, but Salesforce and HubSpot and ServiceNow and all these big software companies have suffered massive declines in the last couple of weeks on their stock price, and it is because of everything in here. It's because the likelihood that businesses are going to keep paying thousands of dollars a month, or in QuickBooks case, it's maybe a couple hundred, or maybe you're on the low end and it's $50 or whatever, that is going to go away. But some of those vendors have strong grips on the market. QuickBooks maybe being the best example, and then TurboTax is actually a pretty good one too, of like, how are we all going to move on from that? But we will, and the reason is QuickBooks can never go to their shareholders and say, sorry guys, we're going to pursue a usage-based or outcomes-based model. And therefore, we are actually going to pursue the same number of customers at 20% of the revenue potential. They can't do that. They're actually stuck where they're at. And so that market is ripe for a brand new company to come into and service that. But it's also heavily regulated, so unfortunately, QuickBooks probably still is the bread and butter in that category. But like change is imminent there because of that model. Intuit will likely not survive this. 20 years from now, they'll be like IBM, or GE, kind of a shell of what they once were, because they're stuck to their business model. And it's ripe for new companies, right? We will never have a subscription model. We will never charge anyone a subscription. One day, we might have what we're going to call task-based pricing. You might pay the pay the app a price per task, but you're talking about like 1/10 of a penny. And so we've looked at someone spending $4,000 a year on Jobber, and then if they use this task-based pricing model, they would land between $40 and $100 per year. So it's like a 98% savings. Jobber can never say, oh, I'm going to move to that model, because the private equity companies that have poured hundreds of millions of dollars into Jobber would be bottom up on their investment. And so again, another market that's ripe for change. There are some migration tools out there though that do assist with that a tiny bit. They would probably be in the QuickBooks Online app marketplace. If in the search bar you search app marketplace, go search in there for migration or desktop migration. And there might be a tool, probably comes with like a one-time fee, but it might be shockingly cheap. And you'll like upload information to them and they'll populate it over. I would imagine they have a decent tool in there for that. There was a question over here.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
kind of got to it. I was just kind of concerned about becoming dependent on this free app. Eventually, a year down the road, tasks start costing money.
Yeah, so I think our application is free forever for the first 1,000 users or 1,000 businesses, and we have not hit 1,000. My company's about a year old. We're in the hundreds, but we're not yet at 1,000. Those first 1,000 will never charge, ever, no matter what features we roll out. We can survive on those transaction fees. After that, we'll still make it free for small businesses. I think that's really important. All these companies are like, the small business solution, or we support small businesses, and then they charge you $14,000 a year for the basic, that's with one user or whatever. I think what we'll do, for example, is we'll have a free forever tier, but for a larger business who's got a bunch of crews or a bunch of trucks and stuff, they're likely going to eat through what we've allocated into the free tier, and so then they would buy banks of tasks. And a task is going to, technically it gets into like AI token usage, but we're going to dial it all into, is the app completing a task? If yes, it will draw down on a balance. But a task is going to be like 1/10 of a penny. And so if you think about how much it costs you or one of your employees to go send an invoice or create a new customer, every task is like a couple dollars. And so to reduce that down to a couple pennies at most, or 1/10 of a penny, is significant.
How does Invoice create a new customer right now?
Right now,
Yeah.
like if you're using the application?
Yeah, I have no flipping clue how this works, so you need to be real dumb with me.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was going to do a live demo, but then at the last second, I had to use my phone. I can't stand social media,
If I
but
call you,
so if you open the app
yeah,
and you'd click it, you'd say, "Hey, create a new customer. John Doe lives at 123 Main Street. Has an email of johndoe123@gmail.com."
yep,
Takes about half a second. Customer's in. It'll say, "Hey, yeah, customer's in." Be like, "Great, now let's send them an estimate," or you can jump right into the next task. If you had a bunch of customers, you could sync it with your contacts. You could upload a file, or you could open your existing app, like with the Jobber example, and start taking pictures, and it'll just pull the information off the screen. And a lot of applications are that way. Like that's where I get into like training should be minimal. QuickBooks, it's a red flag. It's why QuickBooks, they're at risk. If I was
so if a customer called me to set up a septic pumping, and AI knows what it costs to pump a tank,
you would have told it what it costs, or that company, or as you're talking to it, you tell it
can
what
it
the.
send back like a confirmation email and be like, do you want to? And if the customer says yes, then it can do that, and that'll do that all on its own.
Yeah, and the customer's getting like a button to select, or some applications allow the customer to sign. You can say, "Oh, require a 20% deposit on that one," because it's a GC or company that tends to stiff you a little bit or delay. Throw in a deposit on that one, and it's doing it all for you. It's syncing it all to QuickBooks, and then same thing for the invoicing step. That estimate can become the invoice. It'll show the 20% off. And then you can go from there. You can break it into multiple invoices, and it's saying, "Hey, you're asking in the morning, hey, where are we at?" And it's talking to you. This particular app knows about 90 languages.
Does it also track I'll call it inventory, like what you use on the job and what it would?
Yes, it tracks all your products and services. Transparently, where we are, we just got approached to have better inventory management to actually put quantities next to certain line items. So that's something we're looking at right now. Though that brings up a good point in that software today is very dynamic. You can vibe code a tool if you've heard of that. You can't vibe code very good tools, but it does allow coding to get much, much faster. And so you used to have to be a huge company to get a custom feature. You want to go to your software vendor and get a custom feature. QuickBooks, they'll never add a custom feature for anyone. They're a massive company. But my ability, for example, or a lot of or even the app I use to make this, their ability to add a custom feature is really high. They can take that feedback. "Oh, we need quantity down these." Great. I need a couple of days, and we'll deploy that. And then it's monitoring quantity. "Oh yeah, we used 3 of those." It takes from 6 to 3. Ultimately, our dream is that then plugs into a supplier, SiteOne, an ABC supply, whatever, as long as it's a major supplier, and you're actually able to order through those prompts. There's some tools already doing that, where it's saying, hey, your quantity is getting a little low there. Do you want me? You ordered 25 units last time. You want me to do that again this time? You've already got your information loaded. You're not going in and figuring that out. It's just asking you.
How am I assured that my information, when I start sharing with you, is protected and not dumped out there?
Yeah, that's a good one. It's in our privacy policy and how we manage data. It definitely is worth evaluating, particularly in like the voice agent space or these spaces that have a lot of providers. The data is definitely there's companies out there who've basically taken ChatGPT and they've created what they call a wrapper or like a cool little tool around it. And those, I would be wary of those. And so they're probably trying to contain your data, but they may or may not be doing a very good job. We do use APIs from some of the major AI companies, but it's within our databases, it's within your data set. And so we have very strict use of your data. Even we can only see various like summaries. We cannot see your personal information. Some of that is, forgetting the right word, but encrypted. Yeah. I think I'm happy to, I don't think anyone's in this, I don't think another speaker's in here, so I'm happy to answer some more questions. Oh, okay. I'm happy to keep answering questions. I do think there's another session starting, so feel free to move on, but thank you. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Yes.
Possible to reach to talk to about?
Yeah, I'm pretty available. I'm also at the booth in the back, so I'll be back there after this, and I'm around all day tomorrow.
Catch up with you tomorrow.
Yeah, okay.
I'm Jared.
Yeah, Jackson, yeah.
Jackson,
Yeah.
Are you a good one for starting a new business? Like, so I just started
Yeah.
a drone business and I'm trying to get the business going.
Yeah, I'm happy to like have a conversation and answer any questions you've got. Like I help a lot of new business owners with like offshore talent, finding people to help stand up websites, whatever. I'm happy to have a conversation.
I've got a website, but it's crappy. That's
Okay.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm happy to have a call. Did I give you one of these? No.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm also at the booth in the very back of the hall.
Okay.
If you want to stop by,
No,
yeah.
you can't. God damn.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did
LLB.
You say you had a card or
Yeah.
something? Or?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'll take one of those too. Thank you. Good job today.
Yeah.
no,
I'll answer your question.
I saw it and I was like, I gotta go check this out.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
So the gentleman, I think they're like near you, Tank Track.
Yep. Yeah.
They're down there.
Yep.
I've used their software. I think it's like 3 years now.
Okay.
No, actually since 2020. Is there, if we were to work together, is there
Yeah.
a way you'd get integrated with that?
Probably pretty low. Like ultimately, we're building out some of the features they offer.
Okay.
Not all of them. Like they're very septic specific.
Yeah.
That is the only thing they do. And there's so short answer is like probably not, because they'll quickly be like, well, what's on your roadmap? And I'll share it, and they'll be like, no thanks. They'll view it as competitive. However, as an alternative or an add-on, or because we integrate like with QuickBooks and other partners, sometimes we can fit in without disrupting how you're using your existing tool. So I'd be happy to have a conversation at least about that. You know, we're free, so it's kind of low risk. And then the piece that we'll probably never do is like some of the really, like I saw they can track like how much is in a tank on a truck and like some of that, and it's like, I'm not going to do that.
Not really that important.
Yeah, and I'm not going to do
But I
that.
mean, it's helpful for reporting where we go dump off.
Yeah,
Dumping off, we got to record how many gallons we
Yeah.
dump in Congress. And that waste manifest happens.
yeah.
We have to have that. So
Where are you based out of?
we're in New Hampshire.
Okay. I'm in Maine, but I'm all over, and so I'm happy to like I'd love to dig in and like show you what we'll be able to do, what we can do today, and maybe what we won't do.
The biggest thing was, like I said, like I'm literally in the excavator.
Yeah.
My phone's buzzed me like
Yeah.
6 times sitting in this spot.
Do you have a card on you? No?
Foolishly, no, I didn't.
No, okay. Well, I gave you one. Send me an email or text even.
Yeah,
I'll send you some of the ones I think are best, like the voice agents and stuff that I think are best. Because we don't do that.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Well, I'm definitely gonna keep looking into this.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Or just stop by the booth too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a card.
Yeah.
So,
Let me grab a couple
Agentic,
more. I'm listening. Yeah.
AI, like what are those? I can stop by your booth too.
Yeah. I think I'm out of cards, so we'll stop by the booth. But yeah.
Jump on that right here,
Yeah. Or jump on that. I've got cards at the back booth too, but yeah.